What's up, everybody? We are going to do front wheel bearings on a 2021 Polaris Razor Turbo. I believe this is going to be pretty much the same process for all of them, turbo or not. So step one, take the wheels off. I'm sure y'all see the 4x4 on top of the jack. Obviously, I have a jack stand behind it. Just needs a little more height. As soon as I get the wheels off, I can let the jack down. And the weight will be supported on the jack stand. Now, need to get the brakes off of next. That's going to be a 15mm socket or a wrench. I have a 1/2" drive and a 1/2" gun. I don't like to work hard. So, your brake caliper bolts right back here. Take those off, set them to the side. That'll take the brake caliper off. Good time to check the brakes. Now you need to pull the axle nut off. I believe it's going to be a 27mm. That's what the rears were. Get y'all moved over here. You see mine's got spacers on it, so nobody is surprised that the wheel bearings are gone. Once you take that nut off, one or two washers are going to come out, depends on the axles. That takes your disc and hub assembly off. So the next thing you need to do is knock your tie rod end off, your upper and lower ball joint off, and this piece is where, I believe this is what you call the knuckle. At least in the car world, this would be the knuckle, and you can slide this whole assembly off and press your wheel bearing out. So I've got the L&W arms. Mine look like they're going to be 19 for the tie rod ends, 15, and I'm going to say 15. Same thing for the bottom. So 15 socket, 15 wrench, and I believe a 3/4. Get your hammer. See how close I am. Butterfingers. 19 for the L&W tie rod ends. Get your nut off. There's some spacers. Okay, that leaves a little stub for your tie rod. 15 on the ball joint to jam bolt / nuts. Bottom one. Sometimes if they're hung, take your wrench, put behind the head of the bolt, especially if it's got a washer. You can use your impact to spin them out. You don't want to beat them to death. If they won't come off relatively easily, you can take a punch and get in here and open it up. You see I'm pushing down as I'm tapping on it. That gets our knuckle down and our front lower control arm. Check your ball joints while you're here. Make sure the ball joints are okay. Again, not hitting them hard. Our ball joints are they're not great. Now that gets our knuckle off. I'll take you over here, or I'll show you, and I'll pause the video. You have a C-clip or circlip. You're gonna need some circle parts, take that out. So I'm gonna get that out, put it on the press, and we'll come back to it right there. All right, as you can see, I've got it set up in the press. I did buy the Amazon bearing installation and removal tool. I figured it's better than dealing with sockets. So we've got pretty straightforward. Bearing remove face this way, bearing install face this way, and it has a spacer that sits underneath it to catch the bearing and to keep from pressing on the points that you don't want to press on. So get it squared up on your press. Now make sure your press is good and tight and press it up. All right, it's out. Remove your removal / installation tool. As you can see, there's old bearing. Now let's take our old bearing, match it up with a new one. I believe all the wheel bearings on my Razor are the same all around. I'm not sure about others. I'm not a Polaris tech by any means, so we'll get our new bearing pressed in. It is always a good idea just to check them, make sure they are the same. Obviously there can be some differences in size that your eye is not going to pick up, but regardless, now I believe the easiest way to do this, I'm going to use this as a spacer just so I don't have to do so much jacking to get the pump to go down, if I can get it in there. Again, bearing install side, pretty cut and dry, so I'll take that out. Didn't need the spacer after all. Now, you got it good and tight. Press it in. You want to make sure to watch that's going in straight, not crooked. Same thing on the removal. All right, you'll feel when it's seated all the way. Remove your tool. It's always good to check it and make sure that your surface here is good and flat inside right there. Now let's get the C-clip or the circlip installed. All right, check your circlip, make sure it's sitting all the way. You have to reuse these on the wheel bearings that I bought, so pretty obvious where they went. Let's get it thrown back in. Start with your lower ball joint first. Tell you what, we'll clean those off real quick. As y'all seen in the last video, you know I'm a big fan of anti-seize. I certainly don't think it hurts anything, and most likely these hubs will have to come back off or something, whether it be wheel bearings in the future or ball joints. I mean, you never know. Even if it's not you, put a little on it for the next guy, because it may be you. Plus it makes it a little easier going back in. Zip tie that thing up out of the way, aggravating caliber. Mine's gonna want a little love. Stay. Tell you what. same bolts, doesn't matter. All right, I'm not going to tighten anything up just yet. I'm going to install all the bolts and fasteners loosely. Now the next thing you'd want to do would be to line your axle up inside the hub. Of course, you got to fight with your brake caliper. Hold it up. Same thing. Not trying to beat it to death. Just trying to get it to go in. I think I may have went a little far actually. Yep. Now, get all your hardware installed. At this point, you can go ahead and tighten up everything. Get your tie rod installed. If you have the LNW set up, don't forget your spacer slash bushing, I think is what they call it. Need a 15. On the tie rod. Okay. Now at this point, we can slide our hub back in. Again, I would recommend a little anti-seize. Line your splines up on your axle. Get it pushed in. I believe, don't hold me to this, all the aftermarket axles have 2 washers instead of 1, but I'm not 100% certain about that. So start your nut. Don't forget to line your hole up for your Carter key. Do what I did. Make sure you do what I did, and get your brake caliper caught in between the tie rod and the control arms. Just don't forget to kick your brake caliper across the front, or you'll be doing what I did and have to take it back apart. No big deal. Now, you see mine's got new brakes. Put these on the other day. That was when I learned that it had bad ball joints. So I need these things to slide. There we go. Line them all up. Get your brake pads pushed out like so. Now take your two 15mm caliper brackets, bolts, get them lined back up and started. Take your 15 swivel socket. I believe you can get a straight socket in there as well. Alright, get some new Carter pins, Carter keys, whatever you want to call them. Get those slid through your hole and folded around. Again, make sure that your axle nut is lined up. All these do is keep your axle nut from backing off. Obviously, you know, other than the obvious of it, your axle being loose, but without the right amount of preload on the bearings, you may prematurely wear the bearings out. So now all we've got to do is put our wheel and tire back on, clean up our mess, rinse and repeat on the other side. So as y'all will see, I have another video that is about doing the rear brakes, front brakes, and rear axles, because I broke one. Or rather I say, I let a buddy drive my Razor and he wrecked the Razor. Pretty good actually. And then broke one on a jump, which I don't necessarily blame him for the ball joint. I think had he not lost all of his confidence due to the wreck, he might not have done what he done on the jump down at Durhamtown. But he did pay for it. Paid for the axle was broke anyways. And nobody's mad by any means. It's a lot of fun. So just keep that in mind, guys. If y'all are gonna let somebody else ride your stuff or borrow your stuff, whether it be car, truck, trailer, anything, I'll teach you a life lesson. A good light bulb. Hang on. The life lesson is, if you have friends that you like enough to let them drive your stuff, and you trust enough to let them drive your stuff, if they cannot write a check for whatever they're borrowing, and or will not write a check for whatever they're borrowing, they do not need to borrow it. So, I know a guy that let somebody work on his Corvette, and a friend of his totaled it, and it was his insurance that ate it. So, that same thing goes for borrowers. If you're going to borrow your friend's stuff, if you won't write a check for it or can't, you shouldn't borrow it. We'll do a time lapse on the other side. It's just a rinse and repeat. See y'all in a minute. Alright guys, we got everything replaced. This last little clip, all I do is back it down the driveway and pull it back in to settle the suspension. After our wreck at Durham Town, I wanted to measure and make sure that our alignment wasn't too far off, which it was. So I did get that all lined back up, got it where it's driving straight again. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Hope y'all found this helpful. If y'all have any questions, leave a comment. I'd love to subscribe, like, etc. Hope y'all have a great day.